Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's video, which is called Draw Your Theory. I chose to talk about theory today because in the social sciences, theory is one of the most important parts of any manuscript, and in fact, your theory or theoretical framework should be embedded throughout every aspect of the manuscript. It's how you frame what you investigate, what you think is important and worthy of investigation, what you need to include. And I'm hoping that drawing can help make theory visible and therefore make it easier to write about. So I'm going to give some examples of how I've used drawings to help me understand and explain theory better. But first, what is a theory? And I'm going to show you a few slides. So let me set that up. I like to think about theories as stories, and those of you who are familiar with Dorothy Holland's and colleagues' work on figured worlds will recognize where these ideas come from. So why stories? Stories have a set of characters, and those characters have relationships. They act and they react to events that happen around them. So if you're not clear about what your theory needs to include, you could ask yourself, what are all the people and objects, the processes and the relationships that you need to use in order to explain your phenomenon of interest? So those are going to be the elements of your theory. And I think it's easiest to explain if I give a few examples. These are taken from a talk I gave at the Ontario Association for Mathematics Education a couple of years ago. So this is the title of the talk. I use some drawings to try to understand and explain theories of disability. So in this talk, I was charged with speaking about mindset theory and how it might relate to students with disabilities or students with special needs and special education. And I felt it was really important to start with theory because the way that you frame what a disability is definitely changes what you think you're going to have to do about it. I'm not going to be citing anyone in my discussion of disability. I'm really forming kind of a composite picture that doesn't represent any one view, and so I didn't want to misrepresent anyone's work. But I hope you'll see that the two theories contrast quite significantly. So here's what I think is a fairly widespread theory of disability. So we have a person, an individual person here, and that is this person right here. And inside this person's head is a disability. It's something that belongs to that person and that exists inside of them. Something else that happens inside the head is learning, which I have this L. And learning happens inside the head and it belongs to the person. And disability influences learning. Most often we talk about how disability prevents learning or makes learning more difficult, etc. And then we have this other little symbol over here with a Q on it. By this theory of disabilities, a disability is something that is measured by some kind of test. I put a Q for questionnaire. I just put a Q there to represent these kinds of measurements. And those measurements are almost equated with the disability, that the disability is an inability to perform well on the test. And so, so the two are very, very closely linked. So with this theory, if you wanted to study disability, you really, your main focus is going to be on an individual person and what's happening inside their head. And then you're going to find ways to externalize that through like questionnaires and external measures. So, so the theory informs how you would go about studying the disability. Instead, we could have a theory that's that's broader, that includes many more things. And so you can see that this image, what I'm calling a critical sociocultural disability theory, is more complex drawing. There are more sort of things involved. So we still have an individual person. They're holding on to a test result because in the world that we're currently living in, test results matter. So we need to include those in any disability theory. But we're not equating the questionnaire with the disability in this case. The person's holding on to the questionnaire because it is one of the elements of the story that makes a difference. But the questionnaire and the disability are two different things. Now I have this big letter C that the person is sort of standing within. I used that to represent the context. So disabilities come out within particular contexts. They're made relevant in some contexts and not others. And so we can't really speak about a disability residing within a person because a person's always within a context. And then we have these speech bubbles because instead of something being inside someone's head, this theory conceptualizes disability as something that someone does. Contextual view of a disability, and that influences the way that someone participates. That's the P, contextual view of how someone participates. And then there's a contextual view of the learning that happens, and learning and participation and disability sort of become actually the same thing in this theory. But the picture would not be complete if it was just the person, because other aspects of the context need to be considered. The artifacts that are made available and how they're used, and other people and the kinds of relationships that are involved between the different people. So from this view, if you wanted to study disability, you would really look at people working together in a context, and you wouldn't sort of generalize to many different contexts, for example. And you certainly wouldn't be talking about an individual and an individual's brain. So what can you do? Well, I have written this up in two different ways. One that involves drawing, which I strongly, strongly recommend, and one that's just writing. So can you sit down right now? You don't have to read anything new. Just sit down and get ready to write about your theory. What is your theory? How does it show up in your lit review, methods, analysis, findings, implications? That's for a social sciences kind of empirical article. So if you're going to do the drawing, I suggest give yourself 3 minutes to draw the theory and try to include all of the relevant elements. Like if you were drawing a house, from the outside, you would include a door and you would include windows because those are just a part of the house. You don't have a house without those. It's part of your sort of theory of what makes a house what it is. So you're going to take 3 minutes to draw the theory, and then 7 minutes, and we're going to go back to the generative writing from a previous video. 7 minutes to just write based on your drawing and on your thoughts about the theory. Then you'll take 7 minutes to create a concept map. You'll write again, and then you'll draw again. And hopefully this will help you to clarify what your theory is, or you can also, I believe, use this for reading articles to help you understand the theory that is being expressed within an article if it's not completely clear. Anyway, I hope that you find this useful. I hope that drawing theory helps you to pull out some of the nuance. I hope you enjoy it, and please let me know how it goes. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week.